Hello, and welcome to Pest in Class, expert voices in pest management. Today, we spoke with Erin Curtis, CXO of Alta Pest Control, which recently ranked number 30 on the PCT Top 100 list and achieved 400% growth over the past 3 years. We explored the role of customer and employee retention and how these combined efforts have driven Alta's remarkable success. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. Erin Curtis, you are the CXO of Alta Pest Control, which is number 30 on the newest PCT Top 100 and has experienced 400% growth in the last 3 years. And since joining Field Routes, over 1,000% growth. Congratulations, and thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm excited to get into it. Today, we're talking about all things customer related and how customer retention and employee retention really go hand in hand and how they lead to big success. But first, our icebreaker. I know you have a connection to Disney, so I'm very excited about this one, and I couldn't help myself. Which Disney movie describes your life so far?
Oh man, there's so many answers that come to mind, but I'll have to say Beauty and the Beast. And the reason is when my wife and I did get a job at Disney, they looked at her, beautiful woman that she is, and said, "We want your face to be public." So they made her Disney princesses, and I say plural. And they looked at me and said, "Put this mask on. It'll be an improvement." They call it friends. I was friends with the Beast. My wife was friends with the princesses, Ariel and Wendy and Alice and Belle. That was the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast perfectly describes our movie of my wife and I's relationship.
I also have to say, you're in your home office right now for those who are only listening as opposed to watching on YouTube, and you have a lot of books. It feels very library-esque, so it's very appropriate. It's an excellent choice.
That's right. I was waiting for you to break into a song, but I'm not going to be the one to do it. So,
as an ex-musical theater performer, I'm shocked that I haven't, but I digress. I'm not going to do my 16-bar cut. I instead would love to hear about your experience and journey into pest control.
A little more than 20 years ago, actually, I went and knocked on doors for a summer sales company called Moxie. I have great admiration for Moxie, what they've been able to accomplish. Jason Walton had me and a team of guys go knock on doors. It was a beneficial summer. I quickly realized I didn't like door-to-door sales as much as some of my compatriots, so I moved over to operations, did that for a couple summers, went back, finished my degree in history education of all things, and then a friend of mine started his own company and said, "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any logistical know-how. Can you come help me?" And as a side note, I was asking him about how he was currently dressed while he was doing applications for a customer, and he was in shorts and flip-flop, which is a big no-no. That's a big compliance no-no. And I was like, I know that's a problem. So yeah, I better get down there and help you. So entered the scene as first a manager for his company and then eventually equity partner and started growing over the years. At one point worked for Terminix for a few years in Houston, running as a termite inspector and then running an inspector sales team. And then eventually starting Ardent in 2013, which grew to a sizable PCT top 100 company. And this may be a little bit more long-winded than you were asking for, but we met some spiritual brothers, Chris and Mike and Tyler Langlois, who had started Alta, and we just found synergy between the two of our groups collectively. And so we merged our companies at the beginning of 2023, and it's been awesome. Between that merge and just getting to know, feeling like there's a team of like-minded individuals who want success and are very driven hyperachievers. It's been a remarkable journey. I have Walt Disney quotes that sum up those journeys, but I'm going to try to spare you from some of those. So
I love it. I love it. What was that synergy like? What were some of those factors that really played into you guys merging and feeling so good about it?
So they have a motto in their company, of which now I am. It's called Live Life Elevated, and it's all about helping individuals become better. Our company mission statement is to provide a better experience by becoming better people. We believe that as we increase and improve individuals to become the best versions of themselves and continue progress to become better, that we ultimately see a better product, a better customer experience, a better result in the end, Well, Ardent, which we had started, I had co-founded with my business partner, and the mission statement was create future value, which was very similar. We said it's all about when you come on, creating future value in yourself, creating future value in your product, creating future value in the customer. And so right there, we just felt like we had conceptual DNA that was intertwined. If we didn't have that, I think we would have had a hard time ever coming to an agreement of we should do this. And it was a strategic partnership. No money changed hands. We just found that we had complementary strengths to each other, but seeing that sort of philosophy and moral compass was united, all the other things fell into place a lot easier. We had to have that foundation right.
Yeah. You need to be able to see eye to eye and have similar goals to really step into something new and feel like you can hit the ground running.
That's right.
Now, I would love to know what your role is as CXO. What does it stand for, and what really inspired you to create this role?
Oh man, I'm going to give you the condensed answer because we don't have 7 hours. CXO stands for Customer Experience Officer, an inflection on the X factor. I like to tell a corny dad joke that says customer experience starts with E, so the CEO. That acronym's taken, so we had to go with the next letter in that word. But Customer Experience Officer. I was in operations, as I was talking about. I have a skill for logistics and building processes and structures. And that was my drive for 2 decades. And then when we merged, we had some very talented individuals. My counterpart with Alta, Mike Lang, was just incredible. I call him a machine, or just a solid dude who knows how to build process and structure. And him and I had really a lot of great talents that fed off each other. And then, like the rest of the industry, we saw a downwards trend of customer retention in 2023. And it wasn't just us, everyone I talked to anecdotally, but we searched empirical data, released from field routes, released from PCT. There was a downwards trend last year. And while we were picking at straws trying to figure out what caused it, what was the main culprit, it occurred to me that there was no one with the voice of the actual customer in our C-suite or in our top level or our top echelon. And so I realized we need to have someone that speaks for the voice of the customer from inside our company, not only hearing the customer's voice, but arguing for it. And the reason why that's important, I'm going to segue a little bit, is because you have operations with very strong, needed priorities. You have sales with very strong, needed priorities. Even customer service is kind of an operation compatible accessory, has strong internal priorities. But some of those, hopefully all align, but some of them compete. And at the end of the day, what's the most important to a company and its bottom line is the customer. And so if you don't have someone actually represent what's best for the company or the customer, not just the company, hey, this is logistically going to make our company more efficient. This is going to help our technicians. This is going to help our sales. Those are all great and needed. But if you don't have someone saying, well, hold up, what best helps the customer? I think we start to misstep. And I think as a company or as an industry, we start to go down the wrong path, the kind that leads to ruin and obsolescence, if that's a word. So we've got to really be careful and mindful. Thank you. You heard it. So let it be written.
So what are some effective channels or methods of gathering valuable information and feedback from your customers?
Yeah. Well, first of all, here's a plug for Field Routes. They do a great job with trigger rules and before service notifications, but also post-service engagement. They have great links that allow people to go in, leave a rating and a survey, let's call it, a basic like post-service wrap-up survey. But we feed in other API integrated services. One that we're really pushing for this next year is FCR, first contact resolution. It means that we solve the customer's issue when they called in or when they requested it. Did we get their ultimate concern resolved, whether that was on the phone or they're in person or the sales rep at the door, whatever the concern the customer brought up, did we actually get it resolved? First contact resolution. And then one that's very familiar to most people is CSAT, customer satisfaction score. Those are great clinical data points. But what I like to talk about is reviews specifically. How are employees engaging with our customer? One of the best telling methods I see is the review gaining traction. So a technician going out to service a home, the easy concept. Did the customer leave them a 5-star review? Google, Facebook, Better Business Bureau, did they? Or did they not? If they did, that tells me a lot. And it tells me a lot of what I need to know about that technician, how that technician is performing, how that technician is actually engaging with the customer. If they're able to get a customer to leave a 5-star review, not only was it because they did a good enough job, but it also means they engage in communication with that customer. They met them on their level. Because it's not the technician's name, although it is the technician's name out there that's saying Technician Bob did a great job, but it's really the customer's name, isn't it? It's them putting their own neck on the line to their own relationships, their own family, their friends, saying, I vouch and I stand by this company. I stand by this technician's performance today. That's a pretty big testimonial. And so a technician that engages in those and gets those reviews tells us how he's representing the company, but also engaging with that customer at their level.
I think that's a great way of indicating the health of your business is the types of reviews that you're getting. So what would be your advice to an owner who is noticing these downward trends with customer retention? What are some actionable items that they can do today to really listen to their customers?
More than 20 years ago, I worked at Disney, and Al Weiss was the president of Walt Disney World at the time. So he ran all the Orlando, Florida operations. I think there was over 30,000 employees at the time, several $billion of revenue a year just represented there, millions of guests that occur and visit. And I remember him teaching this very, very simple principle. So if you go to Disney today, you will find managers, they're dressed nice, with garbage claw picker-uppers. That's the official technical term, by the way, garbage claw picker-upper. He had this rule that a manager, if they didn't have a garbage claw and were using it, they would be fired or terminated or demoted on the spot. Now, to give context, Disney, this is a Fortune 100 company, international conglomeration, and everyone knows Disney. They spend years sometimes grooming and finding the right candidates to get into that management position. So this is not something to take lightly where they just have unlimited ammunition if he was to throw at a problem and then demote him and fire him. No, it was a very intentional choice. He said, this is so important. And Disney's also known for the janitorial service, right? Like people know janitors at Disney, they're wearing tie-dye suits, they're hopping and skipping, they're whistling while they work, they're going around the park, they're keeping Disney immaculate for guests. But Al Weiss had this principle. He's like, if you're a manager and you don't have a garbage claw, and you're actively using it, you're fired, demoted on the spot. Why? Because Al Weiss knew that in the time that a customer or a guest, they call him, saw a gum wrapper on the ground before the janitor could see it, how many guests saw that same gum wrapper on the ground? Even though the janitors are amazing, he knew that a manager could solve that problem right there. It's not just managers, though. We're going to get to the employees at home. He realized whose job was it to actually pick up the trash? Yes, there was an entire department called the janitors, but whose job was it to make it a good experience for the customers, the guests? It was everyone's, right? Everyone had to take ownership of it. So the summation word I would use is ownership. You ask, what would an owner do if they start seeing the downwards trend? First and foremost, they have to breathe, eat, and sleep the concept to their employees that every employee owns that interaction. Every employee owns that experience, that touch point with the customer. If the technicians think it's the office's job to save the customer who's upset, or if the office thinks it's the technician's job to resolve a concern and get this problem taken care of, or a sales rep says, it's not my job to deliver on anything, sign the contract, I'm out of here, I'm like, Toto and Dorothy on a whirlwind, I'm gone. I think we're missing something fundamental, right? Every single person interacting with your customers has to own that interaction. They have to feel that they get ownership. One of our core values as a company, of course, I think you would guess, is ownership. Taking that ownership, empowering your people to feel the ownership, to make sure they understand, yes, someone else may have the specific job to call and try to save a customer, but everyone owns that gum wrapper to where they can make the thing seamless. They can make the whole process work. And if they don't understand it, I would say start there.
Yeah, I love this idea of empowerment and ownership. It really gives a sense of pride to every person in your business, as opposed to it being, that's not my problem. I don't have to worry about that. It's really a collective. And I think that's a great place to operate from.
You see too often people sometimes ascribe that to like this platitude, right? This feel-good, misty notion that doesn't actually result in anything. Your buzzword is empowerment, right? Giving that ownership. But I think there's something crucial to it. That's why it becomes so common use. That's why we use it in platitudinal or Disney stories that I just shared with you, because the concept is real. It's a true principle, but you have to understand that. You have to live it and breathe it, especially from an executive body. If the leaders and the owners at the top of a company are saying, well, that's not my job. And that's why I liked Al Weiss specifically, because he owned it to the managers. And I actually witnessed Al Weiss himself with a garbage claw on his hip, picking up trash. I'm telling you, he lived it. He breathed it. He did those things because it was from the top down saying, It's my problem as much as it's your problem. It's our problem.
This idea of we really leads me into my next question because, and we've talked about this previously, this symbiotic relationship between customer and employee retention. So can you explain to me why those two things really go hand in hand, especially with this employee retention idea?
So when I'm speaking in a closed environment, not broadcasting on podcasts, and I talk to my employees, something I like to say is you are free capitalist employees, not government employees. And the difference is bureaucracy. We've all been there. We all stood in the DMV line, and the employee has a job. They don't seem very happy in it most of the time. And they're just following rules, procedures, policy, and they could, frankly, generally speaking, there's exceptions to the rule, they could care less about the person they're serving. Can we agree to that? That's kind of an understood idea. Whereas the free capitalism or our free society of providing a service and getting paid for that service requires that employee, that symbiotic relationship with the customer. It requires it. It necessitates it. The company is out of business if they lose sight of that. So our employees, and we aren't perfect at this, we know it. Like there's plenty of times where we go, oh, we misstepped here. We didn't listen to our employees enough when they were saying, hey, here's a friction that we're hearing from our customers. We absolutely have those moments. And so I don't want to come off like I'm this grandiose guy who's solved the Rubik's Cube on this. But I will say, like, we do understand it conceptually that if we are keeping our employees happy and listening to them, and they're the frontline advocates and allies for our customers, and our customers are going to definitely tell us. We all know today's customer, there's a book about this called The Wired and Dangerous Customer. I recommend it. The customers today are so connected and interconnected and networked with each other on social media and other outlets where they are very quick to make a decision. They're so gracious when you make amends and try to communicate with them. Customers are gracious to listen and work with you, but they are very quick to vote against you if you don't listen to them and you prove to them that they are not part of the team. We're on the same team. And so getting your employees to buy into that and helping them really work with the customer. So it's almost like your employees and your customer against, let's say, the bureaucracy that is the company that's trying to push its bottom line and make profits and improve EBITDA and, expand and do all its tight knit stick, directions. All that should be in alignment with what your employee and your customer are saying to you. And they're going to speak pretty quickly. And they're going to let you know if you're listening, if you're paying heed to it, if you have your ears to the ground. And so when I talk about the voice of customer and collecting that data, I definitely want to digress and say it's really important that you're also getting the voice of your employee. I think those two do go hand in hand. We just did that. In fact, a few months ago, I got to conduct about 41 direct one-on-one, what we call CX interviews with all of our frontline service managers and some of our customer service managers. I spent a month, sending out a survey and then engaging with them one-on-one like we're doing today, Amanda, and hearing them tell me, asking them questions based on the survey results, but also asking them pointed questions and listening to them. It was invaluable hearing that feedback. And you know what was really interesting? It almost identically aligned with what the customers were telling us in a separate survey that our frontline managers had no idea that those surveys were coming in from our frontline customers. And so here we had these two things that were almost telling us the same thing. The only one that was not apparently clued in was the bureaucracy, the company, this entity, this nameless faceless thing where we love our customers, but we get distracted and separated from that frontline chatter, don't we? We have to. Nature of our beast as we grow. That's why mom and pop shops, chucks in the truck, dead bug ducks, and we say this affectionately, their general retention is the highest. Why? Because they are right there unanimously and instantly connected with their customers, servicing themselves, hearing what the friction points are, and being able to rapidly resolve and respond to the issues. And as you get bigger and bigger for success, you get separated from that noise and that voice, and it's really important to find a way to get dialed back into it.
Yeah, I love this idea of doing the survey with your frontline employees and really getting a picture of what's going on, their concerns. And it's not surprising that it seemed to line up with your customers and their wants and their needs. I think it's really incredible that you're taking the time to really listen. And I wrote this thing down of ownership equals pride. And it really feels like you breathe that. and you live that. And
I breathe the pride part, right? We talked about me being the beast. I definitely have pride. That's for sure. My wife would tell you in a heartbeat. We're not pulling her on as a panel today, I hope, because she would tell you.
Yeah, if she wants to hop on, by all means.
No, but we do. You summed it up great.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really incredible. I love that. I'd love to pivot a little bit to your journey with field routes. I would love to hear just how you found yourself with field routes and how it's really just accelerated your growth.
Customers love most, and we're on this theme of customers because they are the most important element of anyone's business. Customers love most dependability and consistency. And we had some experiences with previous companies, software CRMs that were not dependable and inconsistent. We had some experience with CRM that would crash inevitably several times during the summer, sometimes several times a week. And you can imagine the frustration that caused to our employees because suddenly they're blind, they don't know where they're going, or they're trying to get a new contract added and they can't, or they're trying to tell an office staff to help this customer, we don't even see anything with their accounts, we can't. That blindness was really bad. But also the customer would go to pay a bill online and suddenly the site has crashed, they can't do it, or they're trying to call the company, we can't help them because we say, look, we'll write your stuff down and we'll get back to you when it comes back online. When will that be? We will let you know. It can obviously be a pretty big frustration. And so the first thing that made us start contemplating pest routes at the time, which of course became field routes, was this dependability. In the past 7 years that we've been on field routes / pest routes, I can tell you we've had one major outage, which I'm okay with. Google and Amazon have gone out more than that in the past 7 years. Before anyone goes, one is not, that's too much. It's impossible to find that. They just have a lot of redundancy with their servers, technical speak for, they're very good at dependability and consistency. The other thing is staying relevant. Field routes, pest routes, I'm going to say pest routes occasionally, but field routes is what I mean. Field routes is great at staying relevant, trying to stay ahead of the curve, adopting new technologies as they come, figuring out what we can do to leverage the customer interaction. Years ago, taxi cabs were the way to go, and suddenly Uber came on the scene. Customers were able to order right directly, and it just completely disrupted the taxi scene, right? People now ask about Uber or Lyft. That's what they do. This concept of blue-collar work and direct-to-consumer industry work being this separate from technology thing is thankfully becoming an obsolete way of thinking about it. We know we have to be relevant. We know we have to stay connected to this wired and very dangerous but happy customer to say, how do we deliver what they're looking for? How do we deliver on their wishes? Field Routes has been great at building these systems within it, trigger rules. We talked about that. That was so far sci-fi compared to anything we had used previously with CRMs. The logistic of schedule and route management. I can't imagine what we would have done had we stayed on some of the old CRMs, aside from their inconsistency and non-dependability where they were crashing several times in our busiest times of year. But the ability to leverage the same power that UPS and FedEx use on their route management. And we have that right here at our fingertips within Field Routes. Can I talk about one of my favorite features? Or
please, that was my next question. So please take it away. I'd love to hear that.
I think there's unanimous support for one of the greatest features that happened in 2024 for Field Routes, and that's the on my way notification. What a game changer. Love it. The customers have been asking for that, for us to deliver that for years. And there's just been no way to really do that through other existing CRMs. And suddenly Field Routes says, hey, we hear you, here you go. And it's the kit and caboodle. Now we get to let customers know, like DoorDash, when we're on our way, instant notification, they can see it. Customers want to know. Even if they're not home, they just want to know. They want to be part of it. It's amazing that my daughter, who's 14, it's amazing how many people she follows on My360 or GPS. All of her friends watch GPS. They love to know what's going on. It's like they have to be connected. Like now that they've been born in the era of the internet's, future and AI on the cusp, they go, man, I need to know what's going on. Our customers are the same way. They need to know and feel like they have some sort of observation share to the services they're paying for. They want to be part of the company more than we realize. I think the concept of us high and mighty with our operations and our efficiencies and our sales quotas and all these things that we do really good at, we forget that ultimately what's our end prize? to have a functional, long-lasting, long-term relationship with a customer who feels like they're actually part of the company and they want to be part of that community. Field Routes has built a really good platform for helping engage them in part of that community. On my way, solid. I leave tomorrow. Field Routes pulls that service. I leave. No, I'm kidding.
I'll let them know.
Yeah,
I'll let them
I know they have no intention of doing that. It's been great though.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite features too. I think when you experience that sort of technology, you crave it in other places in your life. DoorDash, I know who's coming. I know what to look for. I have a general idea of what is happening. And it eases that anxiety. I think that when it comes to the trades and it comes to pests, you have people coming to your home. Knowing that people are coming alleviates this anxiety that's just in the back of your mind. And you might not feel the stress, but it's just something added on to your day of, I hope they show up. I hope that this happens, so it really lets the customer also know how much you care. I think it's an excellent feature, and I would agree with you. I've experienced it myself, and I flipped out the first time. I was like, I know when they're showing up.
I know we weren't somehow this pariah company alone in this. So many customers, anecdotally, with data to back it up, to be honest, would have a friction of, was the technician here, right? Mm-hmm. Mom and pop localized companies maybe don't suffer or feel that pain as much, but even they will get that occasional, hey, how do I know you're here? Why should I pay this bill? And the on my way notification, but also some of the other trigger rules around this automation of heads up notices and when we're going, instant emails, instant text, instant voicemail communication to the customer helps reduce one of the largest friction points, which was, how do I know your company even was here? We're not hiding it, are we? We're literally saying, here's the GPS showing us coming to your house. I'm excited to see some of the technologies that I know are going to be coming in the next little while from Field Routes within the ecosystem, but some that we're leveraging that again feed into Field Routes' very healthy open API database is sending picture notification evidence, maybe even engaging in some video from the technicians showing what they found, showing what they were doing that day. Anything to help alleviate the concern before it's a concern, to say, hey, here's notice, we were there. There's no disputation. There's no, you have to call and say, hey, how do I know they're here? And now we're kind of fighting an uphill battle to say, prove that we had honest people that showed up. And we know we have, but how do you prove that? Well, that on my way notification and some of the open API plugins to allow us to show, just solidify that to now where the question is not, were you here? It's, hey, here's this concern I'm having. What can you do for it? No problem. We'll get that taken care of.
I love that so much. Aaron, I want to thank you for coming on to Pest in Class. This has been such a chock-full episode, truly, in such a short amount of time. And I know our listeners are really going to benefit from it. Before we go, I would love to ask, what motivates you? I feel like you have so much passion for what you do. You have so much enthusiasm and energy for it. What motivates you?
Thank you, first of all, for that compliment. I appreciate it. Being a Monday, sometimes I don't feel it. I'm like, man, I have passion and I do have energy, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm going to showcase that. So I appreciate you saying that. I told you our mission statement, to provide a better experience by becoming better people. I can honestly say, like, one of the things that motivates me, if I was to retire tomorrow and have the means to live on a private island, I wouldn't do that because I like working with people. I really enjoy seeing people better themselves. One of my favorite, some of my favorite self-fulfillment and providing me purpose in my life has been the letters from former employees where we left on good terms. They felt like they needed to go on to different things or different avenues. Maybe one even went to work for Google and sending me one who went to work for Facebook, but sending me these thankful letters just saying, I know it was the skills that you taught that transcended pest control that helped me get to this. And something that we are keen on talking about, me and my business partners, the owners of this company, Alta as it stands, behind closed doors when no employees can hear, we talk about how can we help our individuals that work for us level up and become better. What is that? Yeah, there is a selfish motivation, if we want to be honest, that says as we help them improve, we know we get a better retention of our customers, we get better retention of our employees, which helps us, improves our bottom line. Yeah, those are certainly selfish motivations. But there's something very inherently intentional about the way we feel. It's part of who we are. Our DNA is we want to see individuals better themselves. I've always told employees, I'm like, if you want to hurt my feelings because I've done something to offend you, the best way is to not grow. Just stay stagnant. Don't improve yourself. Become the worst version of yourself ever here. And then tell me so. Because even though I'll hopefully find a way to soothe myself to sleep and tell myself that it was all a lie, it'll hurt. Because I care so much about seeing an individual grow, whether they're with me for a week, a year, a decade, or hopefully longer. And I joke that I'd like to see them die at this job, but that sounds a little bit morbid and maybe it's taken out of context. But what I'd like to see is to know that in their time they're with me, whether it's a few short days or years, that they've improved, that they've increased their portfolio, their resume has become better, and their skills that do transcend pest control, right? Being a better human, being a better person transcends pest control. Yes, they'll learn skills like selling, they'll learn sales like customer service, they'll learn skills like providing a great pest control service, top notch, but there are skills that transcend that because as they apply themselves and become better and learn some things about themselves along the way, that unlocks some really cool potential, and it's part of our belief system, both from a holistic view, but also from a, let's call it intentional religious view. We feel philosophically strongly about needing to help individuals become better while they're with us. There may be people that have never been believed in by anyone in their life, and I'll be that person. Hopefully they've had others. I can at least be that one person to help. This is so silly, but can I share one thought about that? Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm on this ride, Aaron. Aaron, I'm on this ride with you. I'm fully invested. Go for it.
Thank you. I heard, and I think it was in the context of some churchy or religious podcast, but I think it applies to our work with our employees in our company. So there's a man who's out on a beach with a bunch of starfish drying up, dying from being too far in. They've been washed up on the shore, they're drying up, and he's running around frantically, grabbing starfish and chucking them into the ocean as far as he can. But there's millions of these starfish. And a guy comes up to him and it's like, you're not going to save them all. Like, this is kind of futile. He picks up another one, chucks it in, picks up another, chucks it in, and just turns to the guy and says, it made a difference to that one. And it made a difference to that one. And sometimes I think we get caught up with how we can't change the world. We forget that we can change individuals wherever we are. And I may not be the right boss or the right executive to some people. I may not influence and change someone, but I can change someone. Just because I can't help everyone doesn't mean I can't help someone. And I wish we could all take a little bit more of that into our own companies. There are some great companies in our industry. We have such a great industry. I like to see people care about people regardless of what they're transactionally bringing to a relationship, and more knowing that the abundance mindset, as we help individuals, our world collectively becomes a better place and our companies ultimately thrive.
Aaron, that is absolutely beautiful. And I know that because you have this mentality, it has led to your success in business, but also on a very human level. And it is so refreshing to hear a story like that. Thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class today. And I hope that we hear from you soon. Thank you again.
Amanda, thank you so much. Such a pleasure. And I hope you can use some of this when you go and edit it. So.
I think we're going to use all of it. You did great. Thank you again.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.